Great.
Hello and welcome to Owlbear Soup. I'm Justin and I'm joined by Rich.
I'm Rich. Hi, how's it going? Oh, wow.
Oh man. So we should have a guest today. Rich is going to let us know whenever our guest arrives, and we're just going to roll with it.
Yep. We're having
like
some tech this morning.
like every good stream, we have to have technical issues sometimes, and
Mhm,
and
mhm.
today is that day for us.
It
Um,
is.
so here we are, and we're gonna go ahead and do our normal intro, which is to say, Rich, what do you have in the news?
Oh my gosh. Do you want to go news first? I'm still pretty amped up because we played our regular Pathfinder 2 game last night. Um,
Oh yeah,
which
let's go
brought us
there.
to the climactic moment, the end of book 1 of the War of the Crown adventure path. Um, how what did you think about the ending or the book overall, right? These books are what, like 80 pages long or something, getting us from levels like 1 up
Oh
to 4,
wow.
introducing the world.
Hey Rich, go ahead and hold off for just a second, and we're gonna start this whole thing over again in a because we have
Robot
robotic
voice?
voices according to the chat. Yeah. Uh. Yep. All right. So let me do
Can't
this.
robot.
It'll take just a second. Oh my God. Today is the day, right?
Whew, I don't know what's going on. I'm checking in on Twitter to find marks.
Oh man, that's not the streaming's not going up again.
Maybe this is it.
All
Maybe
right.
the internet's down.
Uh,
Are we? Are we? Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and toss this live on the YouTubes, and we'll hope for the best over there. And I'm gonna go ahead and check our sound. There we go. Now we're going. Now we're going.
It's all working out.
Yeah. So, oh boy, here we go.
Is
Oh
it
no, sorry.
happening? Oh, I'm so excited. Oh my
All right.
gosh.
So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start recording, and we're just gonna go from here.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome to welcome to another start to another episode of Owlbear Soup. I am your
Ooh.
host, Justin, and I am joined by the other host, Richard.
My name's Rich, and I love getting the good double start in the morning. It's great. It's great. It's a rare treat.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, and I didn't even change your background for today, so we're still piratey backgrounds.
Mm,
Woo!
I love these Lego pirates.
Yeah.
You know, the pirates
Um.
for me.
Yeah, we have well, we'll hopefully have a guest today, but
Yes.
we're going to kick it off. We're going to start off by talking about the I guess the Pathfinder game we had last night.
Right. It's
Um
a cool moment because we did get to finish a book, right? We did a
we
complete
did.
story, and that's kind of nice. I like to think about it, recap a little bit. Um,
Mhm.
so this book overall is the story of, let's not get political here, the an attack on the uh, chambers of the Senate of the Empire of Taldor, which as it was going on, we had lots to say. um,
Yeah.
Yep. Started with a big party. Our characters are there to like just meet everybody and talk to a bunch of folks. Attack happens. We end up in an escape room and have to break our way out and go save the day, which of course we did. Well, no,
Of
we're not
course.
Pathfinders. We're just heroes.
We're just heroes. We're not
Ooh,
Pathfinders. Although
spoilers. We're knights.
I mean, we did end up hiring, well, not hiring, we ended up calling in some Pathfinders to help us out,
Mhm.
so that we could sneak into a seedy warehouse hideout to go rescue our patron.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a good time. Overall, I had a good time. The campaign started with a very clunky moment where it was a bunch of hobnobbing in a um I mean, just in like a party type situation, and so it was really kind of hard to get the feeling for it, and it was kind of hard to get the feeling for like all this new team all together to talk about what's going on. Getting used
Yeah.
to the other players and stuff. So I think that was kind of a clunky start, but we quickly got the flow of it, and we quickly became the heroes we were meant to be, I suppose.
Yes, I agree. Right, because the start is really hard. You mentioned that clunky like hobnobbing bit because we don't know our characters very well. I mean, we filled out a huge questionnaire, which I immediately forgot half of the 80 thing questions we answered. Um, but uh, but we just didn't know how to role play together or things like that. I think that party scene could have been a lot bit stronger later on in a campaign.
Yeah.
'Cause, we would have been able to know how to split up a little bit better, and this time we were kind of fumbling for it. But yeah, getting back into the escape room, doing some dungeon delving. I keep calling it an escape room. It's just a little puzzle part of the dungeon. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it felt like an
it was
escape
an
room.
escape room.
Yeah.
and and I liked it. I liked coming together at the end. We had some really cool thematic moments at the end. I think there was a great idea on our DM's part to drop a little extra dungeon and just like pack it all together, which those are the kind of fights I like. Um, we had a character who was definitely the threat. We had someone to save who was also a threat. So we had options. Trying to get a redemption arc from this character who taught me how to bard.
Yeah, that turned out interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
it did. But overall, it's a fun game. I'm also enjoying the Pathfinder system. We just hit fourth level, and each time we get
mhm.
feats that feel small every time. Every single
Yep.
time, I don't feel like I'm getting a big benefit, but we get a lot of them, and it's starting to pick up.
In here, and I'm kind of the opposite. Like the
Oh
more
yeah.
we play Pathfinder 2, the less I kind of like it. It's I mean, it's not a bad game. I'm still enjoying it,
Mm,
but my frustrations were similar to some of our other players' frustrations. Was like during combat, I had to sit there and have the book open, and I had to have like so
yeah,
many tabs open to keep track of like the 90 bajillion different rules. And I like crunch. I just don't like excessive crunch.
yeah.
And I mean, so I was looking at the what happens when you get knocked unconscious, for example, for Pathfinder 2, and it so you get knocked unconscious. You go below 0 hit points, but you don't actually go below 0 hit points. Then you have the condition dying condition, so you have dying 1, and then you have the wounded condition, so you have wounded 1, and
Okay.
so then you make a save at the start of your turn, a death save, and the DC is 10. And if you fail, your dying goes up by 1, but you also have to save
Okay.
against the bleeding, I think. The wounded, because the wounded
Mhm.
may also go up by 1, and if you take damage from wounded, you go deeper into dying 1 or dying, and so once you hit dying 4, you're dead. But that just seems like, I don't know. There's just too many levels of trying to, figure out what my character is doing when my character is unconscious there.
Yeah, that's
Um,
reasonable. Um,
and then the healing, right? The healing at night. Sure, you can do
oh.
four medicine
Yeah.
checks on yourself in an hour or something like that, and each medicine check tells you how much you heal during a night's rest.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
Right.
it's just,
And
yeah.
it's
So when you take a long rest, it's 4 rolls, 2d8 rolls, and
mhm,
then if you get them all, you double them or something. Yeah.
right. It's interesting because it hits this moment that like Fifth Ed has the same moment, right? So whenever I'm playing with my kids and we can take a short rest and heal themselves, I have to explain the rules to hit dice again because they're just like, "What? It feels like incongruous with the rest of the game. It's now this chunky point where we got work to do." And yeah,
Yeah.
Pathfinder 2 takes it to a whole different level. And I feel like it's cool for players who want that crunch. They want to dig in and they want to be like, I don't just want to make a crafting check to make magic items, which is a thing I get to start doing now. But like, if I do well enough and I get a critical success, I want to be able to lower the gold cost by 3.7% and things like that. So
Yeah.
it's a there's a lot. There's a lot. And I don't think that my game style lends itself to it too well. But like, I also am feeling it for my Pathfinder Society days. Like, I kind of want to dig in, and I want to know, nope, this time you're enfeebled too. Nope, this time we're going to do stupefied too, which I think is a difference between like a physical attack penalty and a spell attack penalty. I
Hmm.
like those options.
Yeah, and I guess I feel like that's overkill. Like, why can't we just
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
stupidity that just covers both of them? Like, oh, all right, you have a -2 to attack rolls, done,
Yeah.
right? why do we need like? I mean, how many pages of conditions are there in the book? Whereas
There's a couple.
D&D, yeah, D&D, there's like a half a page.
Hmm.
And this isn't a D&D versus a Pathfinder thing. It's very different styles of play. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time. I like playing games, so I'm okay with how crunchy it is. But I would hate to run a Pathfinder 2 game.
It would be difficult. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I'm dual tasking right now. Besides this conversation, I'm checking in with our guest. I'll let you know how that's going. Currently
Hmm.
troubling, but we'll see what we can do. Um,
Yeah, that's okay. If
um,
if we need to
well,
reschedule, we can reschedule for next week. That's no
yeah,
problem.
exactly.
Uh,
Well,
but let me go ahead and jump into a little bit of news while you work on that.
okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Do it.
So a little while ago, we were talking about Gale Force 9 and how they were they were filing a suit against Wizards of the Coast. And the reason I want to bring
Mhm.
this up is because I think it's important to keep track of the kind of things that are affecting the hobby, and how different businesses within that hobby jump to the news, stop the presses. Uh, yeah, and I think it's important for this hobby for people to understand how the companies interact with each other. So Gale Force 9, they have a license to produce Dungeons and Dragons product, and they should have been, and I think it was for like they were suing for like $950,000. Um, so somehow, and I don't know all the details, but they have settled. And um, yeah, and that's really it. So I don't know what
Right.
their
Mhm.
kind of relationship is going to look like going forward. I hope that
Yeah.
they continue to produce some of their really cool products, like their premium metal minis for Dungeons and Dragons. But
Yeah.
yeah, time will tell.
Right. And I did like seeing that it was settled and the relationship will continue, which for me like felt like very odd phrasing. But I'm sure
Yeah,
on in a legal business sense, it's probably all fine. But that sounds to me like but
right.
good for everybody, right?
Yeah, yeah. So so that means the two big suits that were going up against WotC or Wizards of the Coast was the Dragonlance one as well as the Gale Force 9 one, and
Yeah.
both of those have been
Mhm.
settled.
Yep. Yep. So they've got some options. They got some things going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that is cool. Um, I hear you talking about Pathfinder 2 and the crunchiness. I wanted to tell you about one of my favorite options to go the other direction, if I can.
Okay,
Um,
okay,
because in a bit of news right now, one of my favorite storytelling games is up on Kickstarter right now, and it is Everway,
okay.
second edition. Oh my gosh, did you ever play Everway?
No,
Okay, so
tell
imagine
me
this.
about Everway.
Imagine this. First of all, the character creation system was excellent. It was all about like choosing artwork, um, uh, splitting up some stat points between the four elements, and then choosing like magic and powers. It was a very graceful character creation system for the time, for sure. But you take your character, right, and maybe you've built this paladin, and for magic stuff, you're powerful in water. You've chosen ability you don't have to eat. You were like a vigilant sentinel style character. You don't have to go to smiting abilities, maybe. Those are all your choices, and you go to do something. You find an enemy, and you're like, I want to attack that enemy. And I say, all right. To resolve that, go ahead and take that deck of tarot cards and flip one over. And you do that, and it's the I don't know, the Six of Wands. And then you just have to decide what in the world that means. um,
Right.
it was the wildest system. I ran it for months because it was just this. It was such a cool break from like the crunchiness of a D&D or a Rifts or anything like that. It was just this open to
Hmm.
interpretation style of conflict resolution. It's a beautiful game. It's incredible. It's up on Kickstarter right now as like a new box set, and I'm kind of excited that more people will be able to check out this incredible game.
Nice, nice. Um,
Cool.
so have you ever heard of the game Legends of Andor?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Although
So
I've
this
never
so
played it.
Yeah, I have also never played it. It's been high on my list, but it won Spiel des Jahres like 5 or 6 years ago. And so
Okay.
now, yeah, and the reason I bring it up is coming from Thames and Cosmos, which are the makers of this game, Andor, the family fantasy game. So they're bringing a
The
kid-friendly
family
version.
fantasy game.
Yeah, a kid-friendly version of the fantasy game Legends of Andor is going to be releasing in March. There we go. Haha, got into my seat
Wow.
appropriately. Um, and then oh man.
Just made me laugh. It's you and your seat
Yep.
appropriately.
Oh man. All right. So anyway, I'm excited about that. I love the idea of taking these more complex games and bringing them down to kind of more easy to play family style games.
Yeah.
That's really all I wanted to bring up with that bit of news while we continue to uh, uh, stretch out time.
I think we're close. We're close.
Awesome.
Let's see. I'm really excited for more games that are kind of in that family friendly, have that kid adjacent genre, especially games that kids can play with adults. That is a tricky thread to needle, needle to thread. One of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's been a lot of sewing going on at our house.
Oh.
um, Ooh,
So
thought we were ready. We were going
here,
to check in one. Yeah.
oh no, I'm just gonna keep going. I grabbed some news. So, Games Workshop is
Oh, nice.
teasing Warhammer Age of Sigmar board game. This is gonna be, I believe it's gonna be called Bladeborn, or it's gonna be using the Bladeborn figures, something along those lines. The thing about the Warhammer games is what they do is they have these really like beautiful models with their board games, and that's always something that's kind of fun about picking up Warhammer based board games. But they tend to be a little bit slow, and that's just kind of the style of game that you tend to play with Warhammer.
Gotcha. Gosh, I have not dug into Warhammer anywhere near enough in any of its incarnations. So someday this is all going to end, and you're going to just show me how to play Warhammer. It's going to be a day.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be a weekend.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great. I'm checking in right now, and we are having some issues, but I see our guest here in our studio. Maybe let's see, will we be able to add everyone in?
Oh, they just disappeared from my view over here. So I'll give it.
We're having some connection troubles, I think. So, I see you. You're there again.
Cool. So there was a game called Zombicide that came out not too long ago. It was one of the most popular. It was one of the most popular Kickstarters for a while.
Yes.
Yeah, I can totally hear
you just then,
but I cannot see you.
Yeah. Well, if we can hear you, do we want to? Should we jump in? Shall we?
Well, let's see.
I'm so excited.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and pop on over to the guest scene on my OBS and see. We have an image kind of, but it's frozen. Oh, it's starting to move.
Oh no, we can't hear. Oh, I can play telephone. Maybe I can.
Oh,
I'll
great.
talk to you, and you can talk to me, and I'll talk to Justin. We'll get it all.
You
fair
can't
enough.
hear me now. Oh no. Yeah, because the funny thing is I can't see him on my OBS.
Oh no. All right. Well,
but I can hear
I'm
him
very
just
curious
fine, so
how this looks for everybody at home on Twitch. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. This is great. This is really bringing home the DIY aspect of role playing games that I think that Zinequest really exemplifies. Oh,
Yeah, I don't
well,
even hear Marks now. Oh,
yeah. I don't know what settings are going on, Marks, but I cannot hear you anymore. It's all gone. Maybe we'll have to record something over audio off of and bring it back in or something, because I would really like to have this conversation about Zinequest. I'm so excited about it. Um, but it looks like we're having enough issues.
all right. Well,
um, well, if it is, let's see. I'll make some notes over here. Communicate. Oh, I heard you for a second there. Um,
Marks, can you hear either of us? All right, Marks. Okay. Well, um,
okay.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, we are. Marks and I have been trading interviews, which has been really fun. So they had me on the Yes Indeed pod, which was a lot of fun to talk about my Zine Quest Kickstarter coming out this weekend, and I was hoping that we'd get a chance to talk about uh, their Kickstarter, which we'll certainly promote no matter what. Um,
Yes.
uh, but maybe we'll have to get Marks back next time, um, just because it looks like we're having some tech issues. We're clearly having
Yeah.
some tech issues, everybody.
We're clearly having tech issues today.
That's all right.
So that's okay. It happens. Well, they are. Well, we're working on getting them back. Rich, you could tell us marzipan stories. We could talk about.
Well,
We could We could talk about WandaVision. You're caught up, right?
I am caught up, but we should not talk about WandaVision.
No,
Hold
we
on.
should not
Whoa,
talk
whoa.
about.
Um, let's go ahead real quick. I mean, as we're here, right? So we've had Marks on. I think it's an appropriate moment to talk about Marks's Kickstarter real quick, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, let's talk
because
about Zinequest a bit. I'm really curious. You know what, Richard? Tell me about
yeah,
Zinequest. I still don't
okay,
100% understand what this is. All I know is like there's zines. And is it
there
specific
are.
to like this month? Is this something they do every year? Is this a new thing that they're trying to do? Tell me all about it. We're going to talk about Zinequest.
Perfect. Well, Zinequest is this initiative that Kickstarter is putting out, and basically the goal is for creators to put out their own projects. You know that they're going to turn into a zine, right? You must present a physical zine to your backers. Um, it's a pretty fantastic thing, right? Because it digs into zine culture, right? This DIY, like I'm going to write a thing, I'm going to put it out, I'm going to build it, and we're going to trade them and share this knowledge base. Like I love it in terms of uh, one of my old coworkers loved zines and got me really into them. Came at it from like the punk angle, which I thought was great, like punk literature. But I love it from a folklore angle too, right? Just the sharing of knowledge is fantastic. And in ZineQuest, it's all about role playing games and tabletop role playing games. So most of the zines that we are seeing here are individual independently created games. And in a sense, a lot of them are just whole games all on their own. So, for example, Marx's project is A Loud Noise in a Quiet Place. It is a story game about temporary healing loss, and we'll be talking about it hopefully next time. And one of the big things about it is this two-person game that you play in a single session, and the zine runs you through the entire thing. Um, which is wild, right? A lot of these zines are meant to be single, one play experience. Maybe you play it again with someone else in the future. Um, They're wild. One of the biggest,
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
like
that's just interesting. Like, I uh,
this.
I was never into
Uh-huh.
the punk rock scene for zines and stuff like that, so it's
Mhm.
uh, it's just interesting. Sorry.
Yeah. No, no, no. I love it. Zines, they're just very cool, and I love this campaign. It's happened 3 times so far on
Hmm.
on Kickstarter. All of them have done pretty well, but this one is pretty wild. There's so much going on. I think at the moment there are 244 zines that are live on Kickstarter. There's at least 57 coming up, including
Oh,
mine.
nice.
um, so right, 300 of these zines, most of them like small games. A lot of them are adventures. Another group that gets really into um, Zinequest is like OSR, like old school role playing or dungeon crawl classic style games, putting out small adventures or tables or things that lead you through an experience really quick. Um,
Hi, hi,
here's the
Marks.
weirdest one. Yeah.
Can you hear me? All right,
Wonderful.
great.
That's incredible.
All right, well, no, all right,
You're coming across fantastically. Oh
yeah.
no, I I was just trying
We're
to talk
talking
about
about
Zinequest,
zines.
and honestly, with Justin and I'm the authority, but you are clearly the authority here.
Oh no, they
Knowledge base
cannot
going up.
hear Marks. Well, I'll work on that a little bit.
Okay. Well then, while that's going on, I'll tell you about one of the zine quests, zines that I saw first, which is from 2 years ago. It's a game called Artifact, and there's a game this time called Bucket of Bolts, which is like a spiritual. Well, it's a successor. It's the same group, um, but the idea is Artifact. Yes, I played it over the weekend just to check it out for the first time, and it's a contemplative, like it's a solo game. You sit and you play the story of an artifact, whether you are like a magic sword or a staff or a musical instrument. You can be all sorts of things. There's a long arc of possibilities, and you tell the story of that object as it goes through time. Basically, how you interact with the keepers of your, you, the artifact. So, is it a magic sword? Is it picked up first by a young noble, kind of power hungry, uses you to do things that are both good and bad, maybe, and eventually you are left and picked up by a new keeper. You let time pass. There's moments for you to actually pause and listen to music for a little bit of time while you think about like a century passing or a decade passing or whatever else. And then you are picked up from the dirt again, and off you go on a new adventure. It's like 2 hours, and
Yeah,
it's great.
I think you should have audio now, Marks.
Oh,
I think
we
I
can give it
fixed
a
it.
go. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Maybe.
Hopefully they can hear my
Perfect.
dulcet tones.
Excellent. Well, I'm so
Incredible.
excited. Let's make sure we introduce you well. I mean,
Only 40 minutes late.
well, that's all right. Let's see. So our guest today is Mark Shepard, host of the Yes Indeed podcast, and you are a game designer and promoter,
I am.
doing all sorts
Yes.
of things. Wow.
Too much.
Too much.
Some would say.
Well, in this month, this zine quest, not only have you put out your own zine, but you've interviewed 22 designers.
22. Yes, you were the 22nd. So yeah, it's 22.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, I keep getting asked to do more. I think that's it.
That's over. Wow. They're great. Like we talked, it was a wonderful conversation, and it feels like you have gained such an insight into what Zinequest is all about and the possibilities that are out there.
Well, I like to think so. But
If
to me, it's
anyone.
all just about, well, maybe. I think it's all just about a DIY attitude, which you were saying before, but there's also this kind of aesthetic, which scenes are short and kind of experimental and a bit punky, and not necessarily like the most refined, rounded product, because that's not what the mood is. The mood is kind of to try things out, and from both ends as well, just a creative end and also a consumer end. You know, you're trying different things when you're buying a zine, because it's a low bar to entry. So yeah, it's a pretty cool month. I'm really enjoying hearing about loads of different people's zines and about what they have in mind and about how they plan stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's amazing. I on that note, I was looking at one, Lacuna, I think, which the subtitle is "Read Once and Destroy," and I wasn't sure if that was thematic or if that's real, because zines absolutely could, a one-use product and recycle that and get a new one.
I'm not down with that.
No, gotta hold on to them.
Never destroy anything.
So there's a question from the chat, and that's kind of my question too. Is there's this idea of this publication that is slightly punky, but what is it? Like, what is a zine?
So the way that zines started, which and maybe you touched on before, is kind of in the 90s punk era, and like grunge and emo all had these people producing little magazines, which were basically reviews of stuff and ideas and kind of manifestos as well, and all sorts of stuff. And the 90s game scene kind of picked up on this, and they started there's loads of different game clubs, especially in the UK, and they'd kind of produce their own little in-house pamphlets, which are like collections of games or articles on how to make games better, and so on and so on. And they'd print these up and put them on put them through a photocopier, use loads and loads of glue and make it really messy and punky, and then they like take them to conventions and sell them to other clubs, which I think is just like the most amazing way to distribute games and to distribute ideas and build a scene from a collection of clubs, if you like. So that's where zines came from, and what they've morphed into is sort of what I was saying before, like a creative space, and an experimental creative space at that. So it's sort of related to what's happening on itch.io as well. It's about just trying stuff out because it's potentially really fun. And it's a very low barrier to entry for the creator. They can do pretty much whatever they want, and it doesn't have to be difficult or long or expensive or hard to create. It's just an idea that you're putting forward. So to me, a zine is just like a small digest-sized pamphlet that you can put in the post or sell to someone very accessibly. But there's an aesthetic that's built up around it as well. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
So do you still lean into like? Do you still lean into like the normal piece of paper kind of folded in half with staples in the middle for your zines, or have you advanced the technology from there?
Well, if I was printing them, that's exactly what I would be doing.
Okay.
I think a lot of people are using online fulfillment, so they're using like Mixam to do it, and they sort of specialize in zine printing in a way. They're like one of the foremost internet printers who do that sort of thing. And it's exactly that. It's just sheets of paper folded in half and stapled at the spine. But
yeah.
I did hear a lot about saddle stitching, and apparently a lot of publishers are getting rid of that. So everyone's going to be using staples these days.
Well, there was a slight controversy a couple of weeks ago because Drive-Thru RPG and their fulfillers, Lightning Source, suddenly decided they were going to drop saddle stitching from the 1st of February, which basically put a spanner in everybody's plans, which I think has driven a lot of business towards Mixam instead.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, it's pretty cool actually.
Check it out. That's great. I was planning to, just use a print shop down here, not far away. It's definitely staples, and fold them all, send them out.
Absolutely. Like my local print shop is a zine specialist, so it would be like really, really remiss of me not to use them for my own products.
Yeah.
They're like one of the foremost zine printers in the UK. I mean, I don't know who compiles this list of foremost zine printers, because it's supposed to be more kind of anarchic than that, but they are supposedly very good. So
Right.
I feel like the foremost zine printer is someone with an old copy machine in their garage that they stole out of some like warehouse somewhere.
Yeah. And like loads of school glue or copy decks or something that they're just printing. Yeah. Like, it shouldn't be a professional product.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm picking up. Even the artwork is very, very punk rocky.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
I think
that's such a good
OSR
way
has
to do
really
it.
leaned into it, which is kind of what you were saying before. And
Yeah.
a lot of that's to do with just OSR being a very varied movement, if you like. Like there's a lot of different strands to it, but they're very, on the whole, like leaning towards simplicity more than complexity. So I think that is good. You know, it's easy to print an OSR product in a booklet because they're generally quite short as it is, you know.
Yeah, so we've got simplicity in a lot of senses. And then I think when I look at Zinequest overall, there's also that trend towards like pure storytelling style games, and kind of getting away from mechanics, you know, maybe hacking like a Blades in the Dark system or Powered by the Apocalypse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. It's just interesting for me to see those kind of products because they're not what I see at my game store on the shelf usually. And I want to know what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a lot of it, and sometimes it's quite hard to even see some of the more indie games at your local game shop. And I think one of the major advantages of zines is that they're so portable. I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and like we both agreed that our zines would be under like 100 grams, which is basically the weight limit for sending a letter, which means that you can just put them in the post and not have to really worry too much about, you know, it being super expensive, and it's very accessible to send it worldwide. So it's just a fun product, you know.
Yeah.
Like getting a really nice letter from somebody.
Very nice. Well, so can we talk oh, sorry, Justin.
Oh no, I'm totally fascinated by zines. I this was not something I experienced growing up. I've now that we've talked about them, of course, I've seen them in the periphery at little like punk rock music shops that I've gone to, things like that. How did you get into them, Marks, and how has it changed for you since then?
Well, when I talk about the history of zines, it's not from firsthand experience.
Yeah.
My older sister was quite into the emo scene, and a lot of that in like the early noughties and late 90s was very focused around the kind of handing out zines because that's what that's what the scene was. It was people trying to pass off information about cool bands to each other, which they would do by writing a tiny little magazine and selling it to 20 of their friends or something. Which is definitely where that scene came from. And it got a bit more advanced than that because then people were setting themselves up as what they call distros, which is what my sister always wanted to do, which was to have loads of people send them zines and then sell them on, kind of acting as a sort of bookshop, if you like, but for tiny little zines. And I think that's really cool, and it's very punk rock, It's very boots on the ground, grassroots kind of movement compared to, I don't know, trying to operate through an enormous publishing network like Driver RPG or even Indie Press Revolution. They're not easy scenes to break into, whereas this is much lower barrier. And it's really, really nice that Kickstarter have been doing this. Actually, I think it's a really, really wholesome thing to do.
Absolutely. I really like, when one of my coworkers had a class basically about building zines, and really a lot of the students were talking about, well, I could, make a web page. I don't know that I need a zine. What's the sensibilities? What's the difference? But there was so much personality and so much simplicity in building the zine, drawing, making it your own, changing the type however you want it, that would take so much more expertise on a website and reach a different audience. Like they were uncertain at the start, and then they dug in, and they big with stamps and paste and everything else. Like you were saying, it's fun to watch them be created.
If you don't get sticky fingers making a zine, then you haven't actually done it properly. So I might just have to buy some glue for when I pack mine.
Yeah, right. Oh wow.
So, and I guess this is for both of you. Like, what is the zine making process like? Because like with normal publications, you type it all up. But if I remember seeing like handwritten zines and zines with like cutouts put on them and slapped on them with glue.
Yeah.
Like, what's specifically like for this project of Zinequest where you're
Well,
getting the support and getting all kinds of eyes on this stuff? What's your process? Like, how do you build these things?
Well, I feel like I'm cheating because I'm getting somebody to print mine for me, which means I'll be typing it up and sending it to them in a series of files.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is fine, But there are people like Chris Bissett, who's doing the D36 zine, who is going to be building all of their zines from scratch, and they're all going to be hand printed. They're going to have like flaps and pop-up stuff and like holes cut in it and all sorts of cool stuff like that.
Wow.
And yeah, they're going to make like 36 of those and publish them in hardback, which I think they're all stitching themselves. And that's super fun. But I think in general, the process nowadays, because it's been professionalized slightly, is basically write it up, send it to Mixam, and they'll print it for you and send you a huge box of zines in the post, which is cool. I like that. And then you have to still stuff them in envelopes and write addresses on and stuff, and that's still pretty fun. So.
Yeah. You could add anything else you wanted. I don't know if people are bringing stickers or handwriting things to put in there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do the same. It feels, because it's on Kickstarter as the marketplace, it feels almost like I'm gonna make a digital product and then print it. It just feels a little, I don't know. I see all the ones where people are making their own. There's a great one where someone is making isometric maps, and they'll send you a map, like a book of blanks basically, but they'll also hand draw a map in there so that you have a starting point or something, which is really neat.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's just neat to get that personalized touch. I think that is a big fun part of these projects. So.
Yeah, certainly is.
Whew. Yeah, but ours is momentum. Just like, let's go, let's make this thing, or how much editing is it going to go through? We're just going to make it awesome and get it out there,
Yeah.
It's kind of what I like.
I think that's definitely it. There is a lot of momentum behind it. Like, I think, but it wasn't even announced until quite early January, maybe late January. So nobody even knew if it was going to be happening. So there was kind of a buzz going on. Oh, are they actually going to announce it? Are they not going to announce it? Are we just going to do it anyway? Let's do it anyway. It was just very Then it was announced, and then suddenly loads of people were like, do you know what? Actually, I could just make a zine and publish it, and that's amazing. In the space of 3-4 weeks, people have decided and put a product together, put a Kickstarter page together, and come up with a whole plan of what they want to publish, and just got on with it. And that is definitely the intention of the project. But it's also just really heartening to see how all these people are like not only encouraging each other to do this, but helping each other and sharing tips, sharing resources. And that feels very, very healthy for the indie scene, which is what I'm all about.
It's great. It's what I always wanted Kickstarter to be. There's this like, I'm gonna just put a small thing up. I have an idea. I want to see if I can market it and sell it, and it's got this magic rush to it. I'm in that same boat. We started thinking about our project maybe a month ago at this point, and we'll be launching tomorrow. Like, it's just
that's
see what you can do.
That's a quick turnaround. I mean,
feels like it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, we still need to talk about your project specifically. I would love to know about the story of A Loud Noise in a Quiet Place.
Yeah, okay. Well, like, I feel again like I'm cheating a bit because I wrote it nearly a year and a half ago, but it's A Loud Noise in a Quiet Place, which is my Kickstarter campaign, is a duet quiet story game about my experiences of temporary hearing loss, which is very focused narrative. So it's quite niche, but it's a kind of it's a reflective game. It's a game that makes you think, and it's a game that's supposed to be there to encourage empathy with people who are going through stuff. And it's just one of the games that I'm most proud of, even though I think it was the first full actual role-playing game that I wrote. That may not be true.
Wow.
And I think it probably was.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Ah,
Oh, we're back. Oh, that's weird.
I see us.
are we? Are we? Oh my
Well,
gosh.
I can see myself and I can see all of you.
I don't know who can hear me.
Yeah, I just had a very disconcerting experience of seeing myself on Twitch like 5 seconds after
Oh,
I said something.
intriguing. We cannot see Justin right now, I think, in our little room. Marks and I are hanging
No,
out,
I can't
having
see
a great
Justin,
time.
which means I won't be able to hear him either.
No.
Well,
This is remarkable. I love this.
I'm not going to refresh OBS again.
Yeah.
It's not going to end well.
So here we go. So let's do this telephone where we are talking to Justin on Twitch. What, 15 seconds in the future or so?
That's going to give me a headache.
Oh yeah.
Now just disappeared.
Well, Justin.
I see everybody. But can you hear me?
I see dead people.
I can hear you.
Oh, you know why I can't hear you? Because I didn't plug in my headphones. All right.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Oh my goodness, everybody's here. So I believe we left off. So where I lost us, Marx was telling us about his game.
Right.
I
Marx
was.
is telling us a little bit about their game, A Loud Noise in a Quiet Place. Our conversation, I think, went on a little bit longer than our cut.
Yeah.
So
Possibly
let's
several
see.
seconds, maybe a minute. I don't know.
As I recall, you were telling us about your experiences with temporary hearing loss and how this game is
Sure.
about that.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, A Loud Noise in a Quiet Place was sort of written after during a particularly bad spell of temporary hearing loss. And what it meant was that I was not able to connect to people at all. I was very isolated. My family found it really hard to talk to me or interact with me. It was very difficult for the people at work. It was difficult for me to getting around because I couldn't cycle, which is what I normally do. I couldn't listen to podcasts. I couldn't really cross the road properly. It was very difficult to kind of just like get on with daily life. And it kind of made me think that what we have in our lives is like a very subtle balance of what our senses are. And when we don't have that, for whatever reason, it's really difficult to adjust, and it's difficult for other people to adjust to how it is. So what I would really like is just for people to have some empathy and some understanding with what that is like. So yeah, and I also had these really long bus journeys where I was having to travel to work, which seems ridiculous at the moment. So I was writing on the bus. So I was writing these games, and it kind of came out of that moment of frustration and difficulty and isolation. And yeah, that's what it's there for, is to tell you about that experience and maybe to make you understand what it's like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned in here on your Kickstarter page, each vignette culminates in a defining sound, kind of heard or misheard, which is a very interesting thought about the end of one of these scenes.
Sure.
Like a good focus.
So yeah, I mean, I think one of the trends that you have with story games, which is kind of what I write as opposed to role-playing games, I think, is that often you have a single role per scene rather than lots of roles that tell the story of how it goes through a scene. And then so what you have in this is you have two kind of difficulty levels, one of which is signal and one of which is noise, and you're trying to roll above both of those, which would indicate that you'd heard the sound and you didn't have any additional issues. This is basically just a die rolling game. It's not particularly smart mechanically or anything. And the kind and what it does, because it's just weird, it's very disconcerting, and kind of strange stuff happens that you wouldn't normally expect, and it's just a frustrating time. So
wow,
there's a lot of that sort of mood written into the text of the game, I guess.
And it's a lot written into your zine. Total is just 16 pages. And I'll say the cover you have on your Kickstarter page looks amazing. That is an incredible cover. But it also gives a sense of that mood. I love the blue versus red tone. You get that sense of isolation, I think, out of it, or kind of watching a wash of a world, in a sense.
Yeah, actually, I really want to talk about the cover because so my local zine printer, they work on a risograph printer, which Laser has reminded me. And so what risograph is it's printing using one color at a time, like layered photocopying. So the idea of Zinequest is that you're only really supposed to print in black and white, although that rule is kind of very liberally taken. So I decided I'd make my cover blue and I'd print in red ink and black ink. So those are the three layers of color that's on there.
Oh, wow.
The image itself is just stock art. It's from Unsplash, and I just deconstructed it and put it into the two inks that were supposed to be there. And now, if I get enough money, I'm going to actually pay somebody to make a professional cover of some description.
Oh, wow. Good.
So yeah, that is in a way just a temporary cover that will hopefully be replaced by something that looks even cooler. And we'll see if we can raise enough funds to get Breeder Danan, who is an amazing comic artist and illustrator, to produce us a cool cover.
That's
That
awesome.
is wonderful.
That's what I'm.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm looking.
All right.
I'm looking through your stretch goals, and I kind of want to know about the audiobook.
Sure. Yeah. So another one of the people who I have, I'm in touch with in the scene is Federico Sones. They are an Argentinian game designer now living in Japan. And Federico was the first person on Yes Indeed Pod, actually. And they are very into creating audiobooks for their games. And I think, like, for me, that format is fantastic. I love podcasts. I love listening to speech, whether it's on the radio or in podcast form. And that is how I kind of learn best. And I think there are other people who are like this. So rather than, reading the text of the game, I thought maybe listening to it would be really cool.
Yeah.
So if the podcast gets another 49 followers in the next 12 days, then I will make an audiobook version. If it doesn't, I might anyway, because I think it would be a fun exercise. I think it would be interesting for people who prefer to learn in that way, which is kind of another one of the overall moods of this game, that I just like it to be as accessible as possible for as many people as possible, because that feels like the right goal for a game that is about the balance of senses effectively, to be as kind and sensitive to as many different experiences of the world as possible.
Yeah, you even
That is
noted
amazing.
here that you'll be working with an accessibility designer to make sure that it's as accessible to blind and low vision players as possible. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I like this is a really important thing that a lot of designers aren't able to do, because it's difficult and it's expensive labor. And that's to make their books available or accessible to screen readers, which is a piece of technology which reads the text on the page and tags it and formats it correctly so that it can be read out like legibly.
Yeah.
So that it's not just like reading out weird HTML tags and stuff like that. So I'm working with Rhiannon42, who is the host of the Magpies podcast, and she is also the accessibility consultant for Descent into Midnight, which was a really popular game that came out a couple of years ago about sentient ocean dwelling animals trying to make their environment better. It's a very cool game. It's really amazing.
Wow.
And
it's not what I expected from the title. That's amazing.
It's a really cool game. It's a really special game, and Reed did a lot of cool work on that. I'm working with a few other people as well, like several sensitivity readers, to make sure that it's a fair representation of, well, not that it's a fair representation, because that's not what it's designed to be, but that it is not like actively ableist or harmful to deaf and hard of hearing people, and so on and so on. So yeah, that's where the money is going.
That's
Going to
wonderful.
other people.
Wow.
That's
It's just such a good project. I'm very excited to keep watching it be successful over the next 12 days. 12 days left.
12 days left. I think we're on 71% funded at the moment.
Yeah.
77% funded. Wow, it's gone up a lot in the last hour.
Good.
Thanks.
Good.
77% funded.
Yeah.
I'd really like to get there tomorrow, but we'll see.
Oh gosh, that feeling of waiting for it to fund is a tough one. So I hope you get there very soon, especially because your goals are great. Your stretch goals are fantastic.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to hit some of those. Like being able to work with Bree on making some comics for the inside would be really, really fantastic. Because Bree does fantastic work on a couple of comics. The notable one is The Phoenix, which is a sci-fi comic kind of in the vein of Star Trek, which is really cool. And I've worked with her a lot for the San Gennaro Corp as well, and her art is amazing and beautiful, and I just really would like to share that with other people.
Wow. Well, great. Well, I've got multiple questions for you, but I think it's important to just check in with everybody. If you're out there watching, you can get right now at this very moment, pledge for A Loud Noise in a Quiet Place. Your digital zine is $7 for us in the US, and $14 to get the physical copy sent your way as well.
Is it 14?
Which is very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
£10.
£10. 10 of our British pounds. I'll drop a link in chat.
Yeah.
These are great pledge levels. So I hope it backs quickly and does you very well. What's so for those out there, and I can what's up?
Oh no, I can drop the link in there. I think probably.
Oh, okay. I did it. Oh, you did already. You've all done it.
Twice is
even
no
more
problem.
More links.
Yeah, just everybody just click it. That would be great.
So let's see. It is 10 afternoon. But we had some tech issues. Should we go a little bit longer? How's everybody feeling?
Yeah, that's fine by me.
If you have more questions, go for it, Rich.
I'm curious. Yeah. For those of us who are looking at Zinequest, we talked a little bit about what it's about. We talked about your project. Are there any projects that you think people should? Do you have any recommendations for people to check out as well?
I have a list of 22 recommendations, which are all the people I interviewed on Yes Indeed Pod. If you want to hear my recommendations in detail, then there you go. But well, I can see that Duam Figueroa Sol is in the chat, and Duam has made a very cool OSR zine which is basically a hack of John Harper's World of Dungeons, which is called Noctis Labyrinth. Sorry, I got there in the end. Noctis Labyrinth is kind of a triptych of content. So there's a location for you to explore. There is a kind of dungeon crawl as well, and there is a 1 hour long one shot, which is a really cool format. I'm very, very down with this format. It's very short and snappy. It sounds really cool. And the location itself sounds amazing. It's kind of like a series of a maze of canyons, and it just sounds honestly very, very cool. I'm just trying to make Duam blush as much as possible, really. It's funny for me to do so.
It's great. I hope I've got the right one here.
Yeah,
yes,
that's Labyrinth. Yeah, it's been published by Mordite Press. So I think that's really cool. What are the other ones that I have on here that I'm particularly excited about? I mentioned the D36 zine earlier, which is the one that Chris Bissett is doing with a bunch of cool people. I cannot think of any of those cool people at the moment. Sonata, who is in the RPG SEA scene, which is the Southeast Asia scene, which is very, very cool, diverse, and active scene that feels very organic and amazing. That zine is it's just a collection of content, and its theme is red, which is kind of creepy. So there's a lot of sort of body horror and other weird ideas in there, which is kind of not that up my street, but I think it's going to be an amazing scene anyway.
Sure.
And that's kind of OSR mood as well. That's going to be pretty fun. What else do I think is good? One that came out today is the Edinburgh Indie Gamers Club have made a zine, which all of them have contributed something towards, which is going to be a collection of snarky articles such as "Who is indie anyway?" or something like that, which is just downright rude, to be honest, but should be pretty funny. And a collection of articles about how to start your own indie gamers club and what their code of practices are and how to make an inclusive space and things like that. And also, awesome. I can't remember his name, Gregor Sutton, who wrote the game 360 Scene Carnage Among the Stars, is also going to be he said unleashing something from his hard drive from 10 years ago into the zine as well. So that should be pretty fun, whatever that is.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the Edinburgh Indie Gamers Club, which you can find. I think it's out today. Kickstarter project /Floker / Edinburgh Indie Gamers Zine or something like that. I don't actually have the link, which is not very helpful. If you are coming at it from a kind of more traditional games point of view, then there are a load of other cool things. There is a location published by Trinity Knot Studios, which is called the Docks of Kaz Warren, which is kind of like a Southwest English smuggler town with loads of weird factions and like a church that's trying to suppress magic and things like that. It sounds very cool, and it's like a legacy zine. So the idea is you get a bunch of stickers with it, and you can arrange the stickers however you like. So everybody's zine is slightly different. Yeah, I think that one sounds really, really fun. So that one I think is kind of a cool project, and they're just experimenting with a new way of publishing adventures and locations, and I think that's amazing. That's exactly what this kind of that's exactly what Zinequest is about. It's about experimentation and trying something weird. So yeah, I think that's great.
That's
yeah, honestly, I have too many that I think sound amazing.
I understand. I have a huge list myself, and it's what there's so many experiences to have.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh man, yeah. I let's see here. I found the Zinequest page on Kickstarter. I'm gonna go ahead and toss that in the chat if I can find it. There are so many of them. I didn't realize this was a thing, and now I'm gonna be lost all day. My bank account is gonna be lighter.
Set a budget.
Yeah. But yeah, oh man, it's just like there's this whole new world you guys have now opened up to me.
Whole expensive world.
This whole expensive world you folks have. A cephalopod ocean home. What? I mean, I'm blown away as I'm going through these things. It's so good.
One of the ones I saw recently, which we mentioned before the show started, is Lichcraft, an RPG about trans necromancers. They're waiting so long for healthcare that they decide to become liches instead.
And Lichcraft is really cool. I interviewed Laurie O'Connell for that one.
It's fantastic.
He made it sound fantastic. It's a cool project. Yeah, Lichcraft is good. It's like wildly exceeded its expectations. I think there's now a £10,000 stretch goal on that, which I think they'll probably achieve.
I think so. Yeah, some of these are pretty small, but there's someone who keeps track of all of them, and of the 244 zines that are out there, 203 are funded. And I think a lot of it is people who are just like, they find it and they're like, oh, well, I got 3, I might as well get 4. Oh, I might as well get, okay, let's, and they're just, looking all over the place. There's so many cool options. It's hard to go wrong.
Yeah, there really are. There's some amazing things out there. I'm trying to find, like before you came on, you were talking about Bucket of Bolts. Did we mention Bucket of Bolts? It's cool, but did we mention? I don't know. I've forgotten the name of it. Jason Price, who's written A Complicated Profession, which is about bounty hunters who are no longer allowed to be bounty hunters, and now they have to be cruise line professionals instead.
Oh, yeah, that one did get mentioned at some point in our conversation. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really fun. It's kind of just it's based on Stewpot, which is a kind of it's a bit of an indie stalwart. It's a very strange game. But A Complicated Profession is going to be a lot of fun. And I would be thrilled if that wildly exceeded its expectations as well.
Good. We're talking about pirates a little bit this week. We were talking about building, your own pirate ship and upgrading it. And what was in my brain the whole time was Bucket of Bolts, because it is the version of Artifact, which is about building a ship collaboratively, a spaceship.
Yeah.
And coming up with the backstory of the Millennium Falcon, so that when you're flying around in the Millennium Falcon, you remember, you helped design it, I think, so it feels more thematic to the players in the game. I love it as like a backstory option to then move on with another game. I just wish there was one for pirates someday.
I did interview
I mean,
somebody about pirates.
There could be one.
Oh,
I did. Let me see. So, unfortunately, it's over already because it started before Zinequest. But Natalie Ash and Madeline Ember made a location called Corpsewake Cove, which is just about stealing treasure back from pirates, which sounded like a lot of fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
They also have a second project called The Savage Garden, which apparently is full of just 90s pop band references. And is also, it's a Troika adventure, and it's a prequel to one of their earlier Troika adventures, which is called So You've Been Thrown Down a Well. So, like, I don't know how this works as a prequel, but I guess you find out towards the end of the story.
Maybe you end the story by falling into the well. That's how you win.
Yeah,
I guess.
Feels like an epilogue.
Do I want to do any more shout outs particularly? I think Adira Slattery is releasing a game called Tension, which is based on kind of cat and mouse investigator versus serial killer programs like the TV series of Hannibal or Killing Eve, which was very popular a couple of years ago. And Adira Slattery makes absolutely amazing games that sort of half LARP, half game. And this is a duet game about, a serial killer versus an investigator based on tarot deck. I think it's going to be amazing. Adira is a very, very cool person who has been on the One Shot Network, A Woman with Hollow Eyes, and also in general on One Shot, just running games and being a part of games and being a very cool person. So that's definitely one to check out.
Fantastic. Wow. Okay. See, Justin. See,
It's a whole new world.
I wanted to talk about Zinequest.
I do want to touch on one more thing real quick. I want to make sure that we get this shouted out because I want you to get those 50 new followers because I want to know what an audiobook zine game will be like. So the Yes Indeed podcast, it's podcast interviews with indie tabletop RPG designers. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I mean, you've been, that's a very good description of it, really. It is
fresh from your website.
Interview show. Yeah. It's an interview show where we just have a chat about people's games and inspirations and about the theory and process of practice of game design. That's basically my spiel. And yeah, I just find cool people, have a chat to them, or they find me and say, I'd like to chat to you. And we talk for between 30 minutes and an hour, and it comes out once every 2 weeks usually, or during Zinequest, apparently every day, which is probably excessive. Those ones were a bit shorter, thank goodness. Otherwise, I would be drowning in editing. And yeah, it started last year, last January. As I said, Federico Sones was the first guest, and Juan Figueroa Sol, who's in chat, was the second or third guest. And yeah, we've just had a lot of fun over the last year. We did Zinequest last year. We did International Podcast Month, where we chatted to loads of actual play podcasters, and doing Zinequest this year. In the next couple of months, I'm doing an event where we talk to people from the RPG SEA scene in Southeast Asia, which will be really fun. I've got 4 or 5 interviews lined up for that with some very cool people, including Jamila, Mamatos, various other people who you may or may not know about. And yeah, I'm probably going to do International Podcast Month again in September. And yeah, just have some cool guests to chat about games and about the indie scene and about game design and whatever they want to talk about, really. So yeah,
awesome.
It's fun. Yeah. It seems to be doing quite well.
Good.
Yeah, no, that's great. You've definitely gotten at least one new listener during this stream.
Oh, well, I'm glad I got something out of it.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am so glad you've been here to join us. Thank you for sticking through our technical issues throughout the show. But this interview has been really, really,
Of course,
really
blame me.
wonderful. Oh,
we did.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, of course.
It's been a blast.
I like to see it as
Well,
we have all been earnest contributors,
go
and
ahead.
technology does its own thing. You know.
Yeah. So, yeah, before we wrap it all up, is there anything else that you'd like to shout out? Any of your other projects that you want people to go check out? Or we're just all focused on the podcast and the Kickstarter at this point?
If you want to check out the San Gennaro Corp, which is the cooperative game design collective that I do a lot of work for and publish a game at least once per quarter for, you can find them at twitter.com/San Gennaro Coop, all one word. I'm sure somebody can probably drop that in chat for me. In fact, I could do that for you.
Looks like Rich is on it.
The other project I'm involved with is the Indie Zine, which is again a quarterly zine of games and articles and snarky commentary about the indie scene. That will be out in March as well, probably. But I don't really do very much for that. I just herd cats, which is challenging. And that is probably it. If you want to talk to me on Twitter, you can find me at IamFofos, which again ought to go into chat. It's very difficult to spell, which is very irritating. There we go. IamFofos. That's me. And yeah, I'm just like very happy to talk about indie gaming. And if I see something that I like, I just retweet it or tell people that it's cool. So yeah, that's pretty much my whole shtick at this point.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. As always, make sure to come and check us out here on Twitch every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can also find us on YouTube at soup.fyi/YouTube. This video is going to take a little extra editing. I'm going to try to get it sorted as soon as I can. So keep your eyes out. And once again, thank you everyone for hanging out with us today. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.